If you want to know how to charge more for video production, then this is the video for you. This is one of our most highly requested videos from our users on previous videos, and we're going to be breaking this down into 3 key parts. Part 1 is going to be how you should charge for video production. Part number 2 is going to be what you should be charging right now for video production and some things to think about to help you price better and win more work. And the final part is going to be actually how to charge more and increase that overall spend per person. So as always, make sure you stay until the very end to get the maximum value out of this video. And I've created this video with beginners in mind who have no idea what to charge yet, as well as keeping in mind more experienced people who just want to know how to charge more and take their video production companies or their videography businesses to the next level. If at any point throughout this video you find a bit of information useful, then let me know by pressing the like button. I'd really appreciate that, and it helps our video get seen to more people so we can help more people, because ultimately that's our goal. So let's jump straight into the bulk of this video. How should you charge for video production? Now, from my experience, I've been on the receiving end of receiving quotes from various suppliers that just have a very detailed breakdown, which in one way is good, but it just completely confuses me. And then you end up having to take so much time as a business owner to go through it, and you just want the easiest process possible. We call these things friction points, and every time there's a friction point between you and the potential customer, there's an opportunity for them to go elsewhere or to not use you, or for everything to fall through. So if we can limit the amount of friction points, then you're going to have a much better chance of success. So in my opinion, a lot of people lay out their quotes wrong. So when you're charging, how you should be doing it is, instead of breaking down, this is how much your camera costs, this is how much you cost, this is how much everything else is, you can either look to do them a project rate, which combines everything together, or just list the following key line items. An overall price for filming. How much does it cost for you and a camera per day? Yes, for higher production stuff, you might want to give them options of different cameras, and that will normally happen in a pre-production meeting. But if you're starting out, most of your clients aren't going to know whether you need a Red camera or you need a Sony. Is an FS6 or an FS7 going to be suitable for their job? They want to pick you based on your portfolio, based on the good work that they can already see you doing. So you don't want to confuse them by saying, well, my camera's £400 a day and I'm £400 a day, so that's £800 a day. Just tell them it's £800 a day. And that's the much easier process. So firstly, your first line item you want to list is filming. How much is that per day of filming? And then the editing, how much editing is involved, and do that as a cost per day as well. There's no need to worry about anything else really outside of that, at least as far as the video production itself goes. The other things you want to consider is travel and music costs. They're 2 line items that we might do. If they would like a bespoke music track, then we might put a cost next to that. And also, if they are really far away from us, we'll put a slight travel cost in there as well. We generally don't charge for the time that we're in the car, although that's something we factor in as an overall project. But we will look at how much the mileage is, and we would charge them an X amount per mile. Here in the UK, it's 45p per mile. Where you are might be different, but we set a mileage rate rather than a time-based rate for that. So that's the fundamentals. That's how you should be laying out your invoices. You should be keeping it as simple as possible to make sure there are as few friction points as possible too. So when you send over the quote, they get a very simple structure that anyone can understand, and they can see the total in the bottom corner telling them how much that project is going to cost them. So you don't want lots of things listing all of your items again. You don't want all of this storage cost. Just factor that stuff in. It will make your life so much easier. And then if they say, oh, that's a little bit high, you can explain to them why and what that actually includes. But it's a much easier way of doing it. And when we started doing that, opposed to doing the old method, we noticed a really big turn from people who were saying no, or having to question lots of things, or taking a long time to get the projects through, to people who were instantly happy to move forward with it as of, next week or whatever. So we noticed a big shift in the pattern there. Now, I know a lot of you are waiting for part 2, which is what should you be charging? And this is my most frequently asked question, and a lot of the time this comes from mainly beginners. When you're starting out, you're really unsure how much you should be charging. You might have friends that have been in the industry for years and they're charging $500, $600, $700, $1,000 a day, even more in some cases. And it leaves you really not knowing what your overall worth is or what your value is. Some people will base it on the camera equipment you have. Some people will base it on the amount of experience you have as well. But my general rule of thumb is that if you are just starting out and you don't have much of a portfolio, then just charge something. Charge £100, charge £50 or dollars, or you convert this into your own currency for sure, but charge something, because once you've got a client that's willing to pay you $100, it's then easier to start to scale up. The next client you can charge $150, then $200, $300, $400, $500, and then you can keep scaling it till you get to a point where people are either saying no, and then you might want to rethink your pricing structure, but over time you'll generally get a good idea where you're at with the market. The other thing is, speak to other people. We are so fortunate that we work in such a collaborative environment. Reach out to some other filmmakers who are just starting as well and ask them, hey, would you mind me asking how much you charge for a day of filming, because I really have no idea what to do. I did this with a very good friend of mine who's a world-renowned action sports photographer, and I really appreciated him sitting me down and talking me through exactly why he charges that much, and actually when I'm starting out, how much I should probably be charging based on these things. And the strategy I've just given you is pretty much the same thing as he gave me. And it might sound quite broad and quite vague, but if you start charging something, you'll soon learn what people are happy to pay. Over time as well, your clients will change, because a big problem is, yeah, sure. I see these adverts, no doubt you've seen them on Facebook, these adverts of people telling you, charge your worth, don't go any lower, you know your value. Well, the problem with that is that a lot of people think they're worth a lot more than they are. I'm sitting here today thinking, well, I'm worth at least £1 million a day. But if no one's willing to pay you £1 million a day, then you're going to be pretty broke by the end of the month. So you need to take a bit of an understanding. Yes, of course, it's important to know your value, but you need to know where you sit in with the market. Again, if you buy a really expensive camera, but you're not very good at it compared to what other people can produce, then is a client going to pay more or less for you? They're going to pay less. So again, it comes back to your portfolio, and if you watch this channel and watch my other videos, then you'll know I'm a huge fan on having a diverse portfolio and how important that is to being able to win business in a multitude of sectors. Now, of course, part 1, 2, and shortly part number 3 all interlink really closely with each other. Once you've got an idea of how you should be charging to make sure that you have the best opportunity of winning that sale, then you know roughly how much you should be charging, or at least becoming aware of the factors that make up why people charge certain amounts, then you have a better understanding of how you can start to expand on that. And if you're an existing business already, then you probably know how much you should be charging, and therefore your question is going to be, how can I charge more, or how can I make sure that the clients are spending as much money with me as possible? Which leads me very nicely onto part number 3. Now, like I said at the start, if you are getting any value out of this, if anything has been useful to you, then please press the like button. It shows us that you support this video, and in turn, it helps us reach a much wider audience too. So I'd really appreciate that. And if you're there, why not press the subscribe button as well, if you're not already? We'd really appreciate that. You can always unsubscribe later if you really hate the value that we give on this channel. So, how to charge more? And I'm going to split this into 2 sections. The first section is going to be actually how to physically charge more using some of the tips I've given you in part number 2. And the second part of this strategy is going to be how you can increase the overall spend per client to ensure that instead of a client spending $1,000 with you, they then start spending $5,000 with you. And how can you make that jump? Because at the end of the day, it's going to make a huge impact to your overall turnover at the end of the year. Now, I have very frequently in the past felt that with my business, I'm scared to increase my prices because I'm worried that my existing clients will start to say that we're too expensive and we'll lose them. And that can be really detrimental to a growing business. If you lose a client that's bringing you in $5,000 to $10,000 to $20,000 a year, that's going to have a big impact no matter the size of your business because you're trying to grow it to that next level. But at the same point, if you can work less days for the same amount of money, then that's obviously a much better situation to be in. So it is definitely a case about stepping outside your comfort zone and increasing those prices ever so slightly. We've actually got to points in the past where our clients have told us that we are really cheap in comparison to other production companies that they've used in the past. And that's not always a good thing. And once a couple of clients have told us that, we then start to look to increase our prices further. But there is a plateau. There will always be these points in time where you feel like you can't take that next step up because your client base is kind of maxed out in what they're willing to spend at the moment. So that's when you need to start to look at other industries. And this is why, bringing it back to part number 2, when I spoke about having a diverse portfolio can increase your worth, that's really important. If you're working in the action sports market, and there's always things that break outside of this. Of course, people can make millions from action sports, there's no doubt about it. But as a beginner filmmaker, sometimes it's quite hard to break into those specific industries. So if you have a diverse portfolio where part of it is action sports, part of it is event filming, and the other part is perhaps retail or fashion or things like that, then you can start to move around into different sectors. So we've found ourselves over a period of time finding niches within sectors that we would never have usually have gone for, but have become very lucrative and helped us grow our business. So in those sectors, we're able to increase our prices, we're able to provide more value, and that in turn starts to create a better niche so we can start to charge whatever we want. And then that brings up your overall business value as a production company. I hope you're still following me. But because you've now got a whole bunch of clients that are paying you more money, it brings up the overall value, meaning that you can then charge more across the board. Yes, some clients will inevitably leave you, and this happens quite a lot when you're growing a business, because when you start off charging £100 and then quickly scale that over a period of a year to, let's say, $1,000 or $500 or something like that, those clients you become too expensive for very quickly. So you will say no to some clients and you'll lose some, but if you're moving in between different sectors, hopefully you'll have a lot more yeses in these other places. So that's how you can charge more overall, by increasing your portfolio. Now, the second part of this strategy, which I mentioned earlier, was how to increase the overall spend per project or per client to ensure they're spending the most amount of money with you. So if you use all of the parts and all of the tips that I've given you so far, you should be in a pretty good position to grow your business further and maximize on those sales. And this is where we start looking at, firstly, team size. It's much easier to subcontract out to another filmer and tell the client that for this particular project, they're going to need 2 filmers. That equals 2 times filming day rate. Therefore, you're able to double and scale much quicker. Of course, you're going to have some subcontractor costs, or if you're employing people, obviously you have to pay wages and things like that. And the final thing you should focus more on is secondary services. So ask them, when we've created this video for you, where is it destined for? Or why are we doing this video in the first place? And then you might want to start thinking about consultancy or strategies that you can start to sell them. So a strategy for why they want a particular video, how you're going to market it, perhaps any pay-per-click ads on Facebook, those kind of things, or even just organic posting. You can charge for those services. So you can end up charging thousands of pounds more than you did in your initial quote for the video production by being able to implement it correctly. Again, this isn't going to work for all businesses. Some businesses have in-house marketing teams that make sure all of this stuff is already done before you come on set, but a lot of them don't. And if you can help get that video in front of the right eyes, that's going to be more valuable to the client, to the person that you're speaking to. And if it's more valuable to them, then therefore there's a bit more value that you can add your side in terms of costs, and they're going to be able to see the worth that you bring to that project, opposed to just going in and just doing the bare minimum. And as a result, your business will start to plateau if you don't implement these strategies. I hope this video has helped those experienced filmmakers trying to grow their business further, as well as those people who are just starting out and have no idea at all how to charge for video production. If you have found this video useful, then please do like and subscribe. And if you are an experienced videographer, then I definitely recommend you check out this video. This is how we guaranteed an income for 2022, despite it only being January. There's some huge tips on how to sign clients to these retainer systems that I talk about in this video, so make sure you check it out. And until next time, peace.